You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Johannes Ekström of Avatar. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hey there, what's going on, you wonderful, wonderful people? I want to take a couple minutes to tell you about Gun Street Wiring Shop. Gun Street Wiring Shop? Yes. You got an electric guitar, most likely. If you're listening to this and you don't have an electric guitar, I'll be very, very surprised. But if you do, and you know, over the years, things tend to get a little iffy. You know, your pots wear out, things get a little scratchy, or maybe you just want some more tonal options out of your same instrument. Maybe you want to try some out-of-phase stuff. Maybe you want to try who knows what. Well, Gun Street Wiring Shop are the guys to make it happen. If you go to gunstreetwiringshop.com, you can see they've got some standard, call it vintage style wiring harnesses and some updated ones and et cetera, et cetera. But they also do custom work. And that's what kind of sets them apart. They can do just about anything that you can think of. As a matter of fact, on the Patreon episode that corresponds with this one, we talked about my good friend Justin Porter's Schecter Ultra 3 that had some seriously funky stuff going on, and the stock wiring was starting to fail, bad switches, and blah, 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 blah. Cool sounding guitar, but had funky wiring. Well, I know that Sean just got him all dialed in on his Schecter Ultra 3, which is by no means a traditionally wired instrument, so they can get you what you need. Go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out. Crazy attention to detail, excellent customer service, and almost endless options. I also want to take a few minutes to talk to you about Sinusoid. The Soid Boys have been with us for a long time, and there's good reason for that. They make the best cables in the business and offer the best customer support. They also have a 100-year warranty, because unless you are some sort of undead nightmare creature thing, that's going to last you your lifetime. So go to sinusoid.com and check out their sliver. I've talked about the slivers a lot because I think it's my favorite product from them that I've messed with, because it's a truly unique patch cable. It's very, very small. Very, 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 very small. Like unbelievably small. And it's soldered. So the reliability is much, much better. And I personally know some touring musicians in pretty well-known bands that are using the slivers, and they've definitely stood up to the rigors of the road. Failure rates have went down, and they were able to squeeze more pedals on their pedal board. And isn't that what it's all about? Of course it is. What else would it be about? Like playing ability? No. It's all about more pedals on the board. So go to sinusoid.com, check out the sliver, and you will be very, very glad you did. Sinusoid.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the ToneMob.com podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. With me today, I have Chad Jennings from Jennings Guitars. How's it going?
It's going good, man.
I mean, we both had a mini heart attack because we thought we were being nuked.
Oh,
but,
man.
Thankfully that's not the case.
Nope, just a test.
We were getting ready to record, and a lot of you listeners probably got the same alert. All of a sudden, on the phones, we both got, like, presidential alert. And I was like, I've never seen a presidential alert on my phone before. I don't know what this is. And it was just a test, apparently. So we're all still here. We're recording, and we're not glowing in the dark. So I guess that's a good sign.
Oh, man.
I was recording a podcast one time, and like a jet, like a fighter jet, went lower than I've ever seen. Oh, right above my house, which they don't normally even come over here, but it was like super low and buzzed us, and I was like, what's going on?
Huh.
So that was a little bit awkward. This
Well,
is not
that
the
is.
first time I thought we were getting nuked pre-podcast.
Well, I'm just gonna warn you. It's possible. There's a Air Force base probably about, I don't know, 5 miles from my shop. So every once in a while we get little flight days out here. So, but I think we're good today.
You get buzzed by a bomber or two.
Or 10 or 15. Dude, yeah.
Nice. Well, let's get into it. I've seen your guitars around, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners have, and they look beautiful.
Thank you.
But why don't we dig into like the classic? What's your musical backstory? How'd you get to making guitars in the first place, and what's kind of led you to this point?
Oh man. So in short, I picked up the guitar like 6th, 7th grade. My dad had like a Yamaha Costco electric guitar. Started playing that, and then come 8th grade, we had a science fair project to build something or explain a process, and I was going to build a Kleenex box guitar. You know, a Kleenex box for band strings, and basically explain acoustics. You know, but I thought school projects were always dumb because you would build something, put all this time and effort into it, do a report, and then throw it away. So I said, Dad, I want to build an electric guitar. And he's like, okay. So we got some tools working from my grandfather and bought a book because YouTube wasn't much of a thing at the time. And I started reading, which is fairly odd for me. And before you know it, out came a Gibson SG looking thing that was like 1 3/4 inch thick, and it played good and it sounded good. Fret wire, I didn't know what I was doing. So fretwork on it was a joke. There was a truss rod in it. Actually, there is. The guitar still exists, and I still play it periodically. But the truss rod is in it, but it does not work. And but yeah, you know, it's got all sorts of funny mojo on it. And I remember picking up the one I made more than I was picking up the Gibson SG that I had, and I was like, wait, why does this thing sound better? You know, it doesn't fret every place because the frets are all out of whack, but the overall tone was good. So that kind of got me hooked, and then from there I just kept tinkering, doing guitar repair, and just doing research, kind of just super stoked to learn everything I could, and fascinated by all the nuances of like, oh, you can change the nut material, get a different tone and feel, you can change the thickness of the neck, the material. And, you know, just like any nerd would, you just start diving into it. And, yeah. So then come around my freshman year of college, Devin Murdoch, who works with me currently, asked for a bass. And I was like, well, sure. And then before we knew it, other friends were asking for guitars and mainly Fender copies at that time. But yeah, that's basically the rough backstory. As far as music playing goes, I was more of a guitar nerd. I played in a band for a short while for some tours, but nothing major. I spent more time in the shop than playing guitar, honestly.
What kind of music were you playing in that band?
Man, if I were to give you a point of reference, it would be a thrice-ish screamo band called Matter, and they were actually set up to go on tour with Thrice, and then the band fell apart. So, bummer.
Oh man,
Yeah,
my favorite band.
I know. Both of us. Man.
So good. Well, that would have been a trip. What year approximately was this?
I could have it wrong, but it was like 2013, 2014, maybe 2015. Oh, wow. So it was like the later years ago. Yeah, no, not too long ago. But
well, that's pretty cool.
Just didn't work out. So I was mainly just fill-in musician for them to go on a few tours when they would need me. But yeah, they're rad guys.
I'm gonna have to look them up. That sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
But it's always more about the building for you.
It was always more about the building.
And what did you have? I mean, you said you were reading books and stuff, but did you have any mentors or anybody helping you out other than your dad?
not really. I did as much research as I could on the internet. Like the only thing I grew up building RC cars from like kits, like the fast ones and like the gas powered ones. So
Mm-hmm.
between that, bicycles, motorcycles, I had like a very technical, I guess, grasp on things technically. And the only thing I built out of wood up until this point was a Pinewood Derby car. So I'm like, Dad, I'm going to do this. And he's like, all right, you know how to use the tools. So I just kind of went for it. And I
Go
think
for
that's,
it. Right.
and I'm what, 13, 14 at the time. And I was just kind of perplexed that it actually worked when I was done, So,
Mm-hmm.
so no real mentors. I did take back in like 2012 and 13 and 14. I worked with two private luthiers building acoustic instruments, and I went to Gallup School of Luthery. So that's where I guess my mentoring came in. But up till that point, I was just self-taught and just, for lack of better words, winging it.
How valuable was that Luthery school? There's a lot of guys that do those, and then there's also a lot of guys that apprentice under other builders, and some guys like that are just primarily self-taught. How valuable do you think that was for you?
I think it's kind of like a two-stage value for me. So I went with experience, and I would say the course at the beginning half was definitely tailored to like, okay, let's teach people who know nothing about building or repairing or setting up guitars. Let's get them to build a kind of like a kit guitar, and then you go to building an acoustic guitar. And so for me, went over a lot of stuff that I knew, but I chose to focus in really hard on stepping up my quality and training my eye and even ear to build better instruments. And so that helped me a lot. Also, I got a certificate, which has been huge as far as like running repair business locally, because people see my certificate for guitar building and repair, and it's huge when you're a younger guy and someone brings in like a vintage Martin. They're like, "Whoa, how do I know you're not going to mess it up?" So yeah.
How old are you?
I am 27 as of last month.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I just hit 30 this year, and
Yeah.
I'm like I'm starting to find, like, in my last job and career, I've been working full time since I was 16, and so
Yeah.
I ran into, basically I was always the young pup in wherever I was working. It
Yeah.
didn't matter, and I was treated as such sometimes,
Oh man.
and it was like I'm 25, like I'm not like a child, but now I'm starting to run into a little bit of the reverse where it's like, wait, I'm actually older than some of these people that I'm talking to. Uh-oh, what's
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah. A little bit of a role shift for you.
Yeah, not like I still don't feel old at all. I still feel like a teenager, but um, and somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I'm 25." I'm like, I'm not 25 anymore. What happened? When did that happen?
Right?
It's a weird it's a weird thing. I don't feel any different, but yeah, I don't know. I'm also in a really weird state. Not that this makes any sense in the context of the conversation, but where people, at least people who don't know me, can't generally tell. They don't know how old I am.
Yeah.
They either think I'm way younger or way older. It's really bizarre. I'm like, I think I look like a late 20s, early 30s guy, but apparently some people think I'm in high school. It's a very bizarre situation.
That sounds like my wife. Man, she used to run youth group at a church that we go to, and like when they'd go to big camps, they would be like, "Come on, come with us." She's like, "No, I'm the leader." Thank you very much.
Yeah, or people think I'm older. I get both sides of the equation. I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird age
Yeah,
is a weird thing, I guess. It's just a number. Who cares?
exactly. There's
But
plenty
that is
of
an interesting note that you said though about that. I never really thought about it. But yeah, if I walked into a shop with like a vintage Martin and was like, and there was a younger guy, that's not, and this isn't a good thing. I would mentally go, I want somebody who's been around the block. But you're right.
exactly.
In that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I knew I needed to get that to get the shop to where I wanted it, and to do local repair business. I'm starting to phase most of that repair work out now. But when you start out, you got to do a little bit of everything to kind of make it happen. Some guys are super
Totally.
fortunate to I guess, get just sales off the bat. And I think a lot of those guys started in bands or really heavy in the scene at some level. So they're able to pick a niche audience and kind of press into it, where I'm kind of going the opposite direction. I'm almost starting more as a brand versus having an in anywhere. So I'm trying to develop those relationships um, really heavy, where a lot of guys had some pre-existing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, and you can probably speak to this more than I can, but outside looking in, selling a new brand of high-end guitar seems like a really difficult task these days, because A, there's the established brands, and B, there are so many really good builders out there. Like, cutting through seems exceedingly difficult. I mean, everyone has a bigger microphone via the internet, but at the same time, there's so many people taking advantage of that. Do you experience that it's a little bit difficult to cut through the mix, or how have you approached that?
I think little bit is very understated. It is hard. And what I've heard from most guys and what we're just doing is just being consistent, trying to put stuff out. And I think you and I talked about this like before we hopped on this combo. It was like you just got to do a lot of media and a lot of posting, and it's hard when you're short on hands, but that's where we're heading, and that's what we're doing. And sales are slowly picking up. Like I said, I'm slowly phasing out repair work and a few of the other things we do. But yeah, I think there's a mental block at 2,000 and above for guys when it comes to buying guitar. They get really serious, and I've heard guys say that under 1,500 and like definitely under 1,000, guys aren't very. They're picky, but the money's gonna flow out of their pockets more easily. Where if it's like $2,000, you're gonna research real hard about the brand, the people making them, what you're gonna get. Especially at this weird stage in guitar making, and guitar sales, like you don't always get to experience it before you buy it. So you're relying on the videos you're watching, the word of mouth you're hearing, and reviews you either read about or friends you talk to, stuff like that. So yeah, to answer your question, it's difficult, and you try to do a lot of different stuff, and you wish you could just meet everyone and say, here, try this, but it's not a reality.
It is like it's a real block, and I think that number that you said is very accurate. I know for myself as a consumer, like if I'm gonna spend that much money, I'm gonna probably be pretty confident that what I'm gonna get is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I for a long time I never even bought a guitar that I hadn't played. It wasn't until I got my Roni
Wow.
that I decided to order a guitar without ever having played one. And it was exactly what you said, word of mouth, like research, talking to Paul is like, it was a lot to get me to make that order.
Oh yeah.
And it turned out fantastic, but there's also, you hear horror stories sometimes, and so that's why I think people are hesitant. And if you lose $500, nobody wants to lose $500, but if you lose $2,000,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, ooh, ouch. And you really do lose it. It's like this is a pile of garbage, or this, it's kind of a gamble sometimes. But your stuff looks really, really good, and I've heard really, really good things about it. So
yeah, we take a lot of time. It's the little things that count. Like in the boutique world, it's the fret ends, it's the rolled fretboards themselves. Obviously, tone is a staple. I think one of the biggest thing I've heard across the board from other people who've played them, I'm like, dude, your stuff is so consistent. I had this talk with like a studio guy the other night. I'm like, sometimes I can't tell the difference in the tone woods because the guitar has so much to give already. The tone woods, they add stuff for sure, but once you're plugged in through the pickups, it's like when you got good material and a good build quality, there's not that much more room to go up or down with different materials. Does that make sense? Especially when you start with good material. I don't pick up a piece. I pretty much knock on every single piece of wood before I put it out. And if it's got a dead thud or a plunk, that's not a good guitar. So that one gets put aside and pick the ones that have a good ting or ding or ping quality to them as you knock on them. Something that kind of reverberates, hopefully like a bell is what you shoot for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I said this on some older episodes, but I remember reading on a forum somewhere that some guitars or some pieces of wood when they when they grow up they want to be a guitar,
Yeah.
and some want to be a park bench.
Yep.
Unfortunately, some of those park benches get turned into guitars at times.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately,
it's kind of a weird thing.
Some of those park benches should be guitars.
That's a good point. They probably should.
As a guitar nerd, I definitely knock on most planks of wood
Random things
within reason. And I knock on park benches all the time, and they're weathered aged wood usually, and you're just like, wow, that would be awesome if I could just have this.
I'll trade you. Trade you, city. Where are you at? Where in California are you?
We're in Camarillo, California. I think the city that everyone knows more is like Ventura, which is just right up the street. That's actually where I live.
Gotcha.
But Camarillo is the shop.
Gotcha. So what inspires like your designs? Like they're kind of Fender-y, but not totally. Like where do you get some inspiration, and how do you approach the actual body shape? Because besides actually getting a brand off the ground, designing a guitar that looks cool but not out, that still looks like a guitar,
it
seems really, really difficult.
It is. And thank you. I appreciate the comment. I came from clearly a Fender background. I always enjoyed Fenders a lot. I like Gibsons too, but something about a Fender always rang better for me. So our goal in designing our guitars were to keep it simple, keep it classic, but still keep it unique and stay within what I call the guitar box. That like people expect to see your guitars occupy a certain real estate visually, and they want them to balance in a certain spot, and that's kind of where we took it off from there. And I think the end result for both the Voyager and Catalina models were very, very positive. And so with the Voyager, clearly went offset, and wanted to throw back something Jazzmaster feeling. And then with the Catalina, it was kind of a take on a Gibson ES339, the smaller body, but flat top.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely proud to say it gives the 339 a big run for its money.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's good stuff. That's great.
Did that answer your question fully, or did you want more out of it? I think so.
Well, I was just wondering, like, I think you pretty much explained it, but I was wondering if there was any like I couldn't sit down and draw. Like I can physically, I have the capability of drawing a guitar shape, but I don't have the mental capacity to actually like draw something that was appealing and also looks like a guitar. Like I could draw a fish and put a neck on it, but that would look stupid. So like the guys that can just crank out like just really excellent looking designs that are also not a Les Paul or a Telecaster is always just really impressive to me, is I guess where I was going with it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like I said before, it's both Fender and Gibson early on, they really nailed down balance and body shape and positioning. And I'm not just talking about weight balance, but visual balance of where the horns sit, how the back end sits, and all that stuff. So I basically literally drew boxes off of the several main designs and had like reference lines. So you have a point of reference to work with, and then you're just line blending. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Okay, so when you said guitar box, you literally meant guitar box.
Well, there is a box, like people, I guess, a mental and theoretical box that people kind of expect you to be in for the guitar to look at. But I'm using this box analogy in several different ways, and then I physically also created a box around a guitar to draw it. So, yeah.
That's an interesting approach. Do you know if that's a common thing or is that kind of just your thing?
I would assume it's common because it goes back to the, I don't know, philosophy or thought process of like, why reinvent the wheel? You know, I'm not sitting down to design the first Telecaster. I'm sitting down to create a somewhat unique guitar that plays incredible and sounds incredible. And yeah, I found that was the best, most efficient way to do that. And yeah,
makes sense. It
yeah.
does. Who are your go-to pickups that you use, or do you make your own, or what's your process like for that?
So we use Tim McNally of McNally Pickups in Canada. We connected with Tim, I don't know, a long time ago, and his stuff's unreal. And the ability to custom order every single pickup, because if you've seen, we do a lot of variations of like gold foil, silver foil. I don't know. Most of our pickups are different. They could be like the same model of pickup, but they're typically looking different in some way. So he can customize them at a one-off level, and they sound unreal. Everyone who plays them is just like, what? So I wish Tim had a better name or a bigger name. The name is great. The quality of the pickups are great. It's just, I wish more people knew about them because they're awesome, you know? So, yeah.
I feel like, and maybe this isn't entirely accurate, but I feel like McNally is one of the, maybe this is just my perception, but in our little world that we occupy, this kind of, boutique industry or whatever, McNally's one of the guys that comes up a lot. Like it's not as big as like Lawler, but he's not been around as long as Lawler either. But I feel like he's pretty consistently, spoken highly of. I need to get him on the podcast actually.
Yeah, you do.
But I don't know. I think he's definitely one of the dudes as far as my perception is anyway.
I would agree with that.
I've never played him, but I see him around a lot.
Yeah, and I would agree with that statement. I think with our designs and shapes and kind of common folk, we run into they only know the big names. They know Seymour Duncan. You even get guys who are like, Seymour Duncan, who's that? I'm just like, what? But, as you run into more common folk, not niche boutique guys, they're like, oh, who's pickups? And they just don't know a whole lot. So McNally is like something that would never cross their world or vocabulary.
That's true. We are like super nerds about it.
Yeah,
so that makes sense. Do you run into, so I sometimes get tunnel vision a little bit.
Oh, me
and
too.
I think like, yeah, everybody knows McNally. Everybody knows Spaceman guitar pedals. Everyone knows Benson amps. Like I think that for some reason. And that's totally not true. You by running the repair stuff, you probably run into a lot more like just non guitar boutique nerd guys. I don't know what other word to use. Like there's a lot of guitar players that have no idea who any of these companies are.
Oh yeah,
and that's not a bad thing. It's just they didn't dig into it that much,
Dude, it's like each age of guitar demographic or people, I don't know, they all have their own niches. Some of the guys are vintage. I think the kind of the group of people that humors me the most are like the guys that are into the budget guitars, that are like really niche into the budget guitars, and then like the guys that are into the vintage off-brand stuff. Like as far as acoustics go, have you ever played like a Goya acoustic?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Those things are incredible, most of them. But they're like, they fly really well. I liked them. And then like, what, the Tiesco or Taisco? Those guys are funny.
I've never figured out the way to say it. I don't know how to say that.
I'm glad I'm not alone, but...
No, it's everybody's like everyone. I've not heard a definitive answer on how to pronounce it. I usually say Tisco.
Tisco, yeah.
I don't know. No, literally everyone that's came on, they're like, I don't know how to say it. I think it's Tisco or Tisco or Tiesco. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But like, some guys are super niche and into those, and it's hilarious.
Yeah. The guitar is such a wide ranging thing, and it, there again, this could be my tunnel vision coming in, but they're every couple years there's always some sort of doom and gloom article that comes out saying the guitar is dead, and it's because Guitar Center sales are down, Gibson sales are down, XYZ big brand sales are down, and I feel like that's missing the picture, like the big picture. What do you think about that?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. I think similar to the beer industry, like a lot of the niche guys are kind of taking business away from a lot of the bigger brands. So if you're buying niche, you're definitely not buying, or if you're buying boutique, you're not buying from Guitar Center. If you're buying like custom stuff, you should go and like maker direct in a lot of cases. So
most of the time, I would think.
Yeah, and yeah, it seems, I don't know, I'm making assumptions. I always do that stupidly. But it seems like
I do too.
It seems like these things are very I guess retailer based. Like they'll do a lot of their polls from retailers and the sales and retailers, but I don't know if they're taking polls from like Benson. They're definitely not taking polls from me or like Cower, because that's a chunk of money that's music business that might not be accounted for in their polls that they're running.
I think that's 100%. Even some of the, some of the guitar pedal brands and string companies and all this, like there's so much that Guitar Center does not sell all of it.
Yeah.
Like they don't.
They only sell what sales said sells good, which is smart for them, but sucks for the rest of us.
Well, and it's just like you said, I'm positive that Doug Cower is not reporting any of his stuff.
Oh yeah,
like to a industry, poll. I know that like none of the brands I work with are reporting to anybody. So like that's all like small businesses, that have a decent amount of sales that no one knows about.
Yeah.
Like, and is taking directly away from things like Guitar Center.
Yeah.
Because if you spent $200 on an overdrive from a small manufacturer, you probably didn't go to Guitar Center and buy 3 Boss pedals or whatever.
Yep.
You just didn't.
And
as you and I both know, it's not a huge industry, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of small companies that don't sell in Guitar Center.
Oh yeah. And I think a quick scroll through Instagram will prove that really heavily. No matter how small or big you are, Like, It seems like everyone's got their own little custom guitar shop. But, yeah.
That's fun. One thing about guitar building, though. There is a lot of luthiers and a lot of shops out there, but there's even more like techs, like guys that do repair.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's much more common to have like several really good repair technicians in a city than it is to have like a brand of guitars.
Oh yeah. Well, like basic build principle, build a lifetime guitar, like in theory, I'm building my guitar so you can keep them for the rest of your life. And that's what we shoot for. That's kind of like a design filter we run through. So one guitar per 50 years, obviously guys buy, and we all have way more than one guitar. But like, that's a filter. So like that makes sense for repair. There should be way more repair guys.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
that's true. That's another thing that ties into the the quote, like the guitar market, with lower sales or whatever. It's like, well, I have a guitar from 1955 that still plays and sounds awesome. Like, a secondhand market is another thing that is huge in this business, because almost all of the products were designed to last for a long time. Even a guitar pedal, like,
oh yeah,
you can throw a Boss pedal off of a roof, it's still gonna work.
Yep.
Like, everything is designed to last, and if it's not, those brands don't succeed. So it's kind of a weird thing to. I don't know. I see so many guitar players. I know I'm in my bubble here.
Yeah.
I see so many guitar players and so many new musicians interested in it, and I just can't fathom a world in which that goes away. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Do you see any like do you see a lot of younger musicians in your area, or what is your kind of perception on what these darn kids are up to these days?
I have no clue what these darn kids are up to. That's for dang sure. It doesn't seem like they're playing music as much as they used to, at least in my little city. But, you know, I'm from this area called the Conejo Valley. And I don't know. It's like a lot of the kids just aren't playing guitar anymore. You go to LA, it's a different story. You know, there's so many people, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like kids are playing guitar as much. What's your take up there?
Up here, it's hard to say. I kind of have this cycle theory,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's entirely accurate or not, but this is at least my perception of it. I started playing guitar. My dad. So let me take a step back. My dad always played guitar.
Yeah.
So growing up, I always seen him playing guitar, and I thought I want to do that one day as a child. And also when he was growing up, guitar music was really big. He grew up in the 70s and 80s, and guitar music was obviously huge. And then it kind of dipped down in the late 80s. I mean, the hair metal thing took over and people started getting a little bit disinterested on the whole. And then grunge happened.
Yep.
And so then it blew back up again. And then after the late 90s, it kind of started diving down. There was still the new metal thing, but it wasn't like this. I don't think Limp Bizkit inspired a whole new crop of guitar players. I could be wrong, but I don't really think that's the case. And then my generation started, coming of age, so to speak. And that was the post-hardcore, metalcore, emo, pop punk generation.
Yeah.
And that got huge in the early 2000s and definitely made me like seriously pick up guitar.
Yeah.
I think, and now my son is watching me, and he's always coming out and wanting to horse around and out in as he calls it, the pedal place.
The pedal place. Oh man,
he's 3, so it's pretty awesome.
That's epic.
And he wants to go out there, and he watches me, and he has a guitar and he quote unquote plays it, and I feel like I say I don't want to force him like a football dad or something, but I mean, just by me being so passionate about it, it's kind of happening. I feel like by the time he's a teenager, there will be some sort of something. I don't know if it'll be a punk revival. I don't know what it'll be, but I feel like there will be some sort of musical movement that his generation gets into that will probably push a lot of them to pick up the instrument again, or more often, or more of them, or something. I don't know. It could be wrong, but it seems like there's this generational cycle that started, way back in the 50s when rock and roll started,
So you're almost calling it like an A-B cycle of like first 5 years, guitar euphoria, last 5 years, less than guitar euphoria. And then it's
I was going to say, I don't know what that is. DJ euphoria? I'm not sure.
Oh, man. And then like it goes back like almost as if it resets in the next 10 years.
That's what I see.
Okay.
I mean, those are the patterns I'm seeing. And then all the meanwhile, like, guys like us never stopped playing.
Yeah.
We never stopped caring about it. So I don't ever see it being like this dominating force where everyone in the world plays guitar.
No.
But I do see it kind of ebbing and flowing fairly consistently if you look at the history of the electric guitar, I think.
Interesting. I'm going to have to look into this more. We'll see if more parties agree with your philosophy.
I'm sure this will generate some chatter in the Facebook group, but we'll find out. Or maybe I could be wrong. I mean, I definitely could be wrong. It's just that's what the trend tells me. And then the other thing I point to is, you hear about Fender and Gibson struggling, but you never hear about D'Addario struggling. And they're a huge company.
Dude,
people don't realize how big D'Addario.
Yeah. My dad grew up doing, or not grew up, but as I grew up, my dad was doing consumable sales, and I don't know. Makes sense. Why am I building guitars? I should be building strings or something. No, just kidding.
Talking to a couple small string guys. That's as hard as guitar market is to break
Oh
into.
man,
Strings is even more challenging.
I don't know how Gabriel
Um,
does it. You know.
it's so many. There's so many barriers there. It's
Yeah,
such a
I got a lot of respect for that guy, especially with trying to be as niche as he is.
mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
We kind of went all over the place, but that's okay. That's what we do here, right?
that's what podcasts are for.
That is exactly what podcasts are for.
It's to aid everyone's ADD.
Let's try to I don't know. Sometimes I lose track of what I'm even trying to say mid-sentence, like I just did right there. That's a good trait in a podcaster, right? That's a good thing.
Exactly.
Sure it is. What's your guitar rig look like when you do get to play these days?
It looks like me playing acoustic guitar and then going to bed. No.
Oh.
That's about what it feels like. Right now I just run Actually, I just finished a new board. It's got a whole bunch of mishmash of stuff.
Ooh, tell me about it, please.
Well, it started with a donation creation board I got from someone. And being the woodworker I am, he does like that. I don't know if it's like aircraft aluminum, like pre-bent aircraft aluminum stuff with like wooden wings on the side. So I took the wooden wings off. I drew up a file on the CNC and actually made wings out of mahogany that matched 2 amp cabs that I made. So I did that, and then on that board is like a cheap Fender tuner pedal because that's what I have. I've got, man, I can't even like remember all the stuff that's on there. It's like a swirly no-name overdrive pedal that's just like volume tone. It's super transparent. I like it. Then I have Catalan bread pedal. I can't remember which one. I think it's like a Rolling Stones type pedal. I actually like that really a lot. After that, I have a fuzz. I can't remember the brand. I'm like trying to visualize the pedal board. It's so new. I don't have it memorized yet. Then after that, we're going to go over to a Boss DD7. And I just use that for some quick delay type stuff. And then after that, I go into a Matthews Effects delay. I can't remember. I've got like the Cosmonaut and I want to say the Surgeon. I can't remember which one is which. I always get the two like flip flopped in my head.
The Cosmonaut is like a it's a like a modulated reverb.
Yep.
And then the Surgeon is like his multi like different modulation and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I go into the Surgeon.
Both good pedals.
Yeah, seriously. I go into the Surgeon and then I go into the Cosmonaut. And I think after that I go into Electro Harmonics Cathedral Reverb. I think that's the big one with like all the knobs and the presets. And then there's a volume pedal in there somewhere up front, and then coming out of it, I just have like a looper pedal. And then that's about it.
What kind of amp?
Or
amps. You said cabinets, so I'm wondering if there's multiple amps.
Well, there are multiple amps. I have a collection. The first one that I love the most, for sure, is the Benson Monarch we got for NAMM last year in walnut.
My man.
So that lives at the shop. That's our shop demo amp. And then at my house, although I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment, I do have 2 amps there. I have you ever heard of Blackheart amps?
Yeah.
So I got a Blackheart
sure.
Handsome Devil that I modified a lot, and then I made a mahogany 1x12 cab for that, and then I don't know, did grill cloth and everything, and then I have a 50s inspired tweed champ that I made the mahogany cabinet and the circuitry for. So I play through those 2 at home.
Cool. Yeah, I forgot about the Blackhearts. Those are like a really popular like modding platform from what I remember.
Exactly. And
like a lot of people mod the heck out of those.
Yeah, and the natural overdrive tones on it are like, because it's kind of got the I want to say master volume and gain setting, you can definitely dial in some really nice overdrive tones, or at least baseline tone, that you can put pedals on top of. And it's fairly transparent amp, actually. It's running EL 84s. So yeah, I really like that. It's definitely got some tones where you're like, meh, but if you're willing to play with it, it's an amp with a lot of knobs. So if you're willing to play with it, you can definitely dial in some good stuff.
I just had this really strange flashback that I kind of forgot happened. Because of the black art. So there was a guitar store, that popped up, not really right in my neighborhood, but on my drive to work. This is probably like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, look, a new guitar store. I got to go check that out.
Yeah.
And I went up there randomly one day, and I just walked in the door, and it was like very small. Like it was a very small, like 1-bedroom, almost like an apartment type of thing.
Yeah.
But it was in this commercial space. And it was like upstairs and on the top floor. And anyway, I just walked in there, and I was in there for a while. I was in there for probably 15 minutes or so, just looking at what they had. And they had a black heart. That's why this is jogging my memory.
Gosh.
That's probably the last time I played one.
I love that.
I was in there by myself. Like there was no one in there. I was just in the store by my no sales guy, no nothing, nobody, nowhere.
Oh my gosh.
And all this, and I was like, I could have literally like just up and grabbed a ton of stuff. It was all kind of like lower end stuff, but it was, yeah, I didn't want to do that. I didn't even have the urge, but I thought it was strange because he just left me in there. And then all of a sudden, like I was getting ready to leave. I'm like, I don't know. This guy just walks in, and he's like, oh, hey, someone's here. I'm like, where have you been? It's like, like the door was even open. It wasn't like I had to open the door even. I just walked into the wide open door, and the guy's like, oh yeah, I just had to step out for a bit. And he looked a little rough. He looked like he had a rough night or something. And I talked to him for a little bit, but it was like clearly like that the guitar store basically didn't last. So sorry for that random story, but that Blackheart just reminded me of that.
I love that. Yeah, mine was a Guitar Center used find. I would say by nature I'm fairly frugal, or I would say I'm a spender, but I'm cheap. But I still like nice stuff. So that definitely led me to building my own guitars. So
that makes sense.
And that's why I landed on the Blackheart and modded that. I put like money into it, and like I said, it sounds great. It wasn't overly expensive. I definitely occupy a lot of the Voxy tones, but other than that, I'm kind of more of an American voice amp guy.
Right. I mean, you can't be too cheap. You do have a Benson.
I do have a Benson. This is very true.
I'm an unapologetic fanboy of the Benson amps. I love them so much.
Have you been to a shop? I know Portland's a big place, and Oregon is an even bigger place, but have you gotten to stop by at all?
Oh yeah, I go there quite a bit actually.
Oh right.
I like Chris and I have kind of a funny history, sort of. He used to work at Old Town Music back in the day, which is my favorite local store. And I had a Fender 75. Well, I still have it. A Fender 75 head. I don't know if you know what those are, but
I'm guessing it's some kind of silver facey amp.
It was like it's right after that era. It's like in the early 80s. It was Fender's first like attempt at like channel switching and stuff.
Oh wow.
It's some of the very, very last like hand wired Fender amps.
Yeah.
And the thing with that was it sounded really good, but only in one mode. So like if you dialed it in to get a good drive tone, it would sound horrible clean. And if you dialed it in to get a good clean tone, you hit the switch and it would sound terrible as a drive amp. So I took it to there and I was like, can you fix this? It's like, it's not broken, but it certainly doesn't, like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
And Chris was like, revoicing stuff is what I love to do. And while he was kind of, he did some mods on it, made it sound really good. And while I was picking it up, he had the like a very early Monarch sitting on the shelf.
Oh, no way. And you're probably like, what's that?
Yeah, I was like, tell me more about this thing. And he was like, that's my amp that I make. And, you know, it was only probably 6 months later that I was like, I want one. And so I had him make me one. And yeah, I've got a pretty early, I think it was like number 54
Oh, wow.
or something. So it's a fairly early Monarch. And from then on, he's always just been my guy.
That's cool.
So
Chris is so awesome.
You know, he is
He's so sweet too.
I sometimes feel like people think I'm a Benson shill because I'm just always like, the Benson amps are the best amps, because I really do think that, especially the Benson Vincent is the best amp ever. I'm just here to say.
You know, I really want to get my hands on a Vincent.
You'll want to play it. I'm not just saying it because it's named after my son. I really do think it's the best amp ever.
It's named after your son, or your son was named after the amp? Which one?
Well, so this is like almost turning into me talking when it should be more you talking.
That's true. That's true.
The everybody kind of knows this already, but for you, the Vinny, the original Vinny he built that. I asked him to make me an amp that looked like my Monarch for my son.
Oh, no way.
And yeah, he called it the Vinny, because my son is Vincent, and that's where the Vinny came from. And then later, Chris and I, yeah, totally. I'm so spoiled, and so is he. So is my son. He has the best guitar rig ever for a 3-year-old. Oh
man!
And so he has the Vinny, and like we just kind of brainstormed and like thought that out. At first, I was just asking for a toy, but then he was like, "No, if it comes out of my shop, it has to sound good."
Oh yeah.
So we started actually like working on it, and you know, he came up with the concept, and I was like, "What about an instrument level out?" And he was like, "I think I can do that," and made it happen. Fast forward, that amp did pretty well for him, and then we started brainstorming something else, and I was like, you know what I really love? I love using the Vinny as a preamp. I think it sounds excellent into whatever amp I run it in. It sounds especially good with my Monarch.
Yeah,
like it's just awesome. And then that's where we come up with the Vincent concept, and we kind of threw some ideas back and forth, and once we solidified it, he just made it happen. And so it is literally my favorite amp. Dude. I think it's one of the best amps ever.
Well, I'm gonna have to look into that. I'll have to give Mr. Chris a call. Well, when your son is ready for a guitar, we do make short scales. We have a Voyager solid body at 22.5-inch scale, and it's like the body, it's scaled down in size and it's a little bit thinner, and we actually have a Catalina that's semi-hollow as well. That's mini.
That sounds awesome.
Right? I made just a few of those guys, but the guys who got them are just like, what? In a short scale? So they sound
you're tempting me. He's got a full scale Epiphone Les Paul.
Okay.
It looks kind of like my junior. But we should talk about that. That could be a good time when he gets older.
Yeah. And I think another thing people don't know is we make baritones that actually bolt on to our existing standard scale guitars. So I keep trying to convince someone to do it, but nobody's done it yet because I want full guitars. I'm like, dude, you can buy a baritone neck, put tuners and string tree on it, and buy a standard scale neck. And once you pop the strings off, you can also pop the neck off and just swap. So.
Well, now you're talking my language. I love baritones.
Yeah?
I didn't know I loved baritones so much until I got one here a year and a half ago.
Okay.
But I played that thing all the time. I don't know where it's been my whole life. I didn't know what I was missing. Baritones are fantastic.
Yeah, some guys don't know what to do with the extra lowness, but other guys are just like, oh my gosh, there's all that tone from my vocal range that I've never been able to find. And they pick it up, and obviously playing through the Benson just makes it sing. But what pickups?
I like to use a lot of what pickups?
Yeah, what pickups in the wide range, baritone that you have?
So my baritone was a millimetric.
Okay.
Or is a millimetric.
Oh wow.
And he makes his own pickups.
Okay.
So there's like a P90 style one in the neck and a humbucker in the bridge that are his own in-house wines.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit. It's very comfortable, and it's very gnarly when I pummel it with fuzz like I usually do.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
good time.
I'm like torn between the voicing on ours. So obviously, being a custom company, you can pick whatever pickups you want. But we've done them with wide range pickups, and that to me gives you this crazy low end. It's like it's tight but really open at the same time, and then it scoops the mid range a bit. And then the trebles on it are very transparent, but it's all really balanced, so it's really cool. But it's got a big boom, so if you're playing live, I might recommend going with something with like a thinner sound. Maybe going like a underwound humbucker or like a P90, or we've done Stagger Swaggers from McNelly. Oh my gosh! And on a baritone, that was awesome. But I think for just like playing at home, and you could probably fit it into a mix pretty well. The wide range is just, they make you happy. You hear that lowness come out, and you just get excited,
So one of the coolest things I've heard, since speaking of the wide ranges, I have a Tele Custom that I really, really like.
Okay.
And it played like, well, it normally plays fine, but when I drop tuned it, like I think to B to B, I can't remember. I dropped it down really far just to try it, just because, and that was before I had a baritone. I was like, I want to mess with this, and it was with that in the middle position, the wide range in the neck and the standard Tele bridge. That was one of the coolest sounds. It played like absolute garbage, of course, because for obvious reasons, but it sounded amazing. So I don't know, you might try something like that. So if the normal double wide range is too boomy, maybe try mixing it up with like a wide range and a Tele.
Okay.
It sounded amazing. That's just my experience anyway.
Yeah. So my favorite position, now that we're talking like pickups and I guess pickup selector positions on our guitars, I like both the bridge and the neck a lot, but I feel like our guitars almost shine the most in the middle position. You know how some guitars, you go into the middle position, it's almost like you got the okay sounds from both pickups. I don't know if it's just where we have them placed or what, but you definitely get the best sounds from each pickup, and then they get combined, and it's just like all these open dynamics that happen, and everyone who plays them, they like switch the middle position, their eyes light up. It's fun to watch, and they're just like, what is this? So
that's awesome.
Yeah, random nerd notes.
Hashtag nerd notes.
Oh man, that's all this is. One big nerd note.
Oh, totally, 100%. That's all this entire podcast is.
Oh man,
just a bunch of nerds. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Have you had anybody order a guitar or like inquire, or just somebody you've maybe ran into or had dealings with where you were like, wow, I'm like really like your music, this is kind of trippy? Has that ever happened?
Actually, we grew up with a guy, Brian Samus. I don't know if you ever heard that name. He was the drummer for the Neighborhood like a while back, and he started doing some solo stuff. But he's bought a few guitars from us, and I actually really like his music. But other than that, not a whole lot. We definitely get some pop artists. I'm personally not a big pop person, so my bias would be, I don't like them that much, So, but definitely a lot of worship players too would come through and come and get our stuff. But yeah, no one too crazy. I got to build a guitar for Dustin Kensrue through like.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's where you're going with that. I knew you were.
I wasn't until I said it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I kind of forgot about it because we talked about it off the air, and I was like, wait a minute. I know there's somebody that you've done a guitar for.
Yeah.
I forgot.
No, Dustin, I don't know him personally. I got to meet him one time, but we got to build a guitar through our shop through someone else's brand that ended up going out to Dustin. it was Casey Crescenzo's brand, Cave and Canary Goods, and they sent that guitar out to Dustin, and it was an awesome guitar, honestly. And yeah,
I remember that guitar because one of my good friends and my drummer, he was like, "Hey, what do you know about this Cave and Canary Goods guitar?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, Dustin apparently plays this baritone," and he showed me a picture of it, and I was like, "Ugh,
yeah,
that guitar is gorgeous."
yeah.
So you built that. I mean, it
Partially,
was designed.
it was not
Yeah,
designed by
or how did
us.
that work?
So Casey Crescenzo actually did his own designs, and then he, I
Mm-hmm.
guess in theory, contracted us to do the fabrication for the guitars, and then Casey would receive the guitars raw, or they just have a sealer coat on them, and he would do paint and final assembly.
Gotcha.
So it was a collab on that one, but yeah, I'm stoked Dustin got it. I think Dustin's playing with like Ernie Ball or someone random right now. At least one time when I saw
Yeah,
it.
it seems like he did get an Ernie Ball. Did he get a signature? I can't remember.
I think he may have, but I don't know. Dustin will play whatever Dustin wants to play, because that's the way he is.
That's true. And I'll be fine with it.
Yeah. Yep. Dude, that guy knows how to write music and stay on top of trends. Man, he's evolved so much. I've never heard a musician that can evolve that much. I guess another one equatable would be like Casey Crescenzo of the Deer Hunter. But
Right.
yeah. Good job,
No,
Dustin.
I agree with you.
Good job.
Good job. I don't know if you're listening right now, but good job anyway.
Oh man.
If you are listening, this is a little embarrassing because I've gushed over your band multiple times, and now that'd be kind of weird. But yeah, they've been my favorite band since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And a lot of bands from that era, speaking to what you said, a lot of bands from that time in my life, I still like them.
Yeah.
But I don't like them as much as I used to. And they have either caused me to evolve musically or somehow mentally evolved with me to where I just really like all of their output.
Yeah.
And I recognize that it's all very different from the Thrice that I knew and loved, but you're right. They've evolved significantly, and I think it's, in my opinion, been for the better.
Oh yeah. He's always like right on top of kind of what's new and up and coming or trending. Like if I were to describe it, it's almost as if he's setting the trends discreetly. You know, like I guess growing up, people knew of Thrice, but unless you were in our kind of niche of music that we listened to, like you didn't know of Thrice. But it seemed like where he would turn, music was turning either with him or like right behind him. So I found it interesting and fascinating.
I would say that's pretty accurate. That sounds about right to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's a very good description. I'm not sure how he was able to pull that off.
But I know that's why I resort on the thought of, I guess, genius as far as like writing genius goes, but
yeah, just ahead of the curve somehow.
Yeah, can you teach me how to do that?
Way. Yeah, no kidding. That would be nice.
Oh man,
I've been in a songwriting at like rut. And like I've been trying to pull myself out of it, and whenever I'm away from the guitar, I come up with these cool melodies or something.
Yeah.
And then I try, and I'll try to work it out later when I get home, and I'm like, this is not working.
Yep.
What happened?
Yep.
What is going on? It's so frustrating.
Yeah. That's why I stuck with the guitar building.
Well, I can't do that either. So I guess I'll stick with guitar podcasting. I guess. Well, we are getting close to the end here, and I have yet to ask you like the make it or break it question.
Make it or break it. Let's go for it.
It's a big deal. You are sitting down, right?
I am.
Okay. This is a little bit of a heavy subject, but I think I can handle it. Okay. What kind of pizza do you like?
Ooh. Is it okay if I like multiple pizzas?
It's perfectly fine, yeah.
I would say pizza is great.
You don't have to be monogamous with pizza.
Pizza is great as a whole. I worked at Costco making pizzas actually for a while. So a Costco cheese pizza definitely hits home with its like mountain of cheese that they put on there.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely go a meat lover's route with everything you can of red meat. Makes me happy. A little bit of
My man.
pork or bacon on there or something. Um, a good combo or everything pizza definitely hits home. I think next, what would this be, like fourth? Kind of going in order. You like how cheese is at first?
Cheese is important.
Cheese is very important. And then I think the last one would be like a barbecue chicken pizza. Um, I always really like those with the onions, and I forget what else they put on there. It's barbecue chicken, barbecue sauce for the sauce, and onions, and there's some other green thing. Usually, I thought maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of varies, but that's the basic recipe. Sometimes I throw in some green peppers or something.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit weird with the barbecue chicken. Like it's it's good.
It has to come from the right place.
But
they have to know what they're doing.
it has to come from the right place, and then it's never something I would order. But if I was at somebody's house and somebody else ordered it, I'd eat it.
Yeah.
And be perfectly happy with it.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I personally would order when I want pizza.
Totally.
If I want barbecue chicken, I would just want barbecue chicken.
You would go to a barbecue place.
Right. That's kind of how I am with certain foods. I'm starting to be a little bit less that way.
Yeah.
Like some people are like, I want a taco pizza. And I'm like, if I wanted tacos, I would go to a taco place. If I want pizza, I'll go to the pizza place. But, I'm starting to loosen up a little bit.
Gotcha.
Do you have a crust preference? Are you like a New York style guy, or what do you think?
I always forget what is what, but I like a nice medium crust. Sometimes the thick crusts are just way too much, and a thin crust doesn't feel like pizza. It feels like crackers and cheese. So a nice medium crust. If you can imagine Costco pizza crust thickness, that's what I'd go for.
I gotta say, Costco pizza and the hot dogs for that matter, but the pizza especially is bang for the buck. That is hard to beat.
Seriously.
It's definitely not my favorite pizza for me, but for the money, it is.
Yeah.
There's not a comparable pizza that is that good, in my opinion.
Yeah. We've done pizzas at Costco. We did it without onions, without the mushrooms, and it actually tasted a lot better, at least at that time. And then I also almost got fired for making a custom pizza that I bought because it wasn't within Costco guidelines.
Oh, what?
Isn't that?
Tell me more about it.
Yeah, so I took out some stuff in the combo pizza. I had something I brought and put that in it, and then sent it through the oven. And I ate it. It was really good. And then I offered it to someone in the break room, and then before I know it, a manager calls me into the office. I think it was more of a scare tactic, but I was just I almost lost my job because I made myself a pizza.
That's crazy. It was you made one that you yourself bought, and they're like, no.
Yeah, which I get it. That's the whole corporate consistent but it was funny.
I don't get it because it's not I would understand if you made it for a customer.
Yeah,
I totally get that. But if you made it for yourself, I would say that should just be a perk of the job, especially if you paid for it.
Yep. Nope. They were very strict of I don't know how some kitchens are, but you can't eat anything within the, I guess, cooking and food prep space. Not so much for germs, but because it would be quote unquote considered stealing, which makes sense. When do you draw that line of oh, now you're stealing, before you weren't. But
right.
Yeah, I figured it wouldn't be a big thing either. So
shows what I know, I guess.
Yeah.
But hey, Costco cheese pizza is still pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
I'll preface that with the price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone comes close. I don't think even Little Caesars can get anywhere near there.
Little Caesars I'm just amazed that, first of all, I don't think Little Caesars is very good.
Nope.
But I'm amazed that you can even produce that much food for $5.
Well,
regardless of quality. I'm just how did you make so much pizza for $5?
It's because it's not crazy. Food. You eat the bread, you're what am I eating, rubber? But
and again, I've had worse food for $5. Although I don't know. I'm not trying to defend Little Caesars. I'm just saying it's impressive, sort of. I don't
Right.
know. Maybe I'm just eating pure chemical nonsense, but that's to say that I eat Little Caesars on a regular basis. I haven't had Little Caesars in years.
Yeah. It's probably been like 10 years for me, and I've had it like once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it.
I remember when I was a kid, I thought it was good, but I didn't obviously know what I was talking about
Yeah, no.
because I was a child, a silly child.
Oh, man.
Well, that's it. This is probably a good place to wrap up. Where can people find you on the interwebs, and where do you want them to go?
I want you guys to go to the gram. Catch us on the gram at Jennings Guitar Co. That would be the first place I would start. JenningsGuitars.com is the website. Do have a YouTube page with some videos. I wish they were better and higher quality and had more of them, but that's what we got. We're working on more. And yeah, Facebook. Check us out on Facebook. And give me a call. I don't know. Call me. Ask me questions. I like talking to people.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, well, that seems like a good spot to wrap it up. So, for Chad, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, folks, there you have it. There's another one in the can. Chad was a great guy to talk to. We talked off the air quite a bit as well. He's a good guy, and I think his guitars are super, super gorgeous. So do make sure and you head over to their Instagram to check that out. And a few little bits of house cleaning here. I still got some Model 1 Germanium editions. I think I got 10 available over there. And if you want, you can go to tonemob.com/store. We've got 3 demos up. And I think they do a good job at showing the range of tones, and there's even A/B for the silicone version versus the germanium, so you can get a feel for the differences there. But I'm really, really happy with how they turned out. I think this will be the final Model 1 run for the foreseeable future. I really don't think we're going to do any more because there's too many other irons in the fire that are coming out. So I think this will be the, blaze of glory Model 1. So if you're interested in those, go check those out. And I think those will get probably snatched up here pretty soon. And if you need a little more of this content in your life, don't forget about the Tone Mob Patreon. We put new episodes up there every week for the $5 and up subscribers. That's just $5 a month. I know the classic cliche is that it's less than a cup of coffee, but it's true. So you get hours and hours of extra Tone Mob content over there for your ears. Some of that is extended interviews. A lot of that's been extended interviews lately. And some of it is me and my good friend Justin Porter. We tackle different subjects, usually revolving around what kind of barbecue we were wanting to eat that day and what fuzz pedals we're playing. But no, we did a reverb shootout. We've done we've been really experimenting with what people want to hear over there in the Patreon podcast feed. However, there is, like I said, more traditional interview-based Tone Mob content in there as well. Every week, extra stuff for the $5 and up Patreon subscribers. So go to patreon.com/tonemob to check that out and see if any of that works for you. And if it does, I really appreciate it. So until next time, I'm just going to leave you with the same request as always. Please share this with somebody you think will enjoy it. We're nearing episode 100, and I'm working really hard to try to secure somebody super rad. We'll see how that works out. Well, all my guests are pretty rad, but I'm going to try to make episode 100 special in some way. Maybe it'll just be really long. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out, but we're getting really close, and that in itself is kind of crazy. But if you could share this with one person that you think likes it, plug it into Facebook, tell them in real life, anything. If you could just get one extra listener to this show this week, that would be so much appreciated, because if there's no listeners, there's no reason for me to do it. So thank you very much, and I'll talk to you next week. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.